Is the Fed ready to go big? Analysts debate jumbo rate cuts after soft jobs data. The case for a bigger rate cut gains momentum. After another dismal jobs report, https fortune.com 2025-095 jobs report unemployment rate cuts recession Zandi Iviva 123, some economists say the Federal Reserve may now have to move more aggressively at its September meeting, with a 50 basis point cut potentially on the table. The tally for August followed a shocker for July. https fortune.com 2025-0801 jobs report July downward revisions Fed rate cuts Jerome Powell. And the latest report showed payroll growth stalling, unemployment climbing to its highest level in nearly 4 years, and months of downward revisions. Non-farm payrolls rose by just 22,000 last month, shooting far below expectations of 75,000. Revisions also erased gains from earlier in the summer, leaving June as the first month of outright job losses since 2020. The 3-month average of payroll growth slowed to just 29,000, underscoring what EY Parthenon's Lydia Boussor called cracks in the economy's main pillar, the labour market. The unemployment rate also ticked up to 4.3%, the highest since October 2021. A 50 basis point cut is now in play. Analyst Jamie Cox of Harris Financial Group wrote in a note, "The Fed's free pass on the labour market has ended." Kevin Hassett, the current White House National Economic Council Director and a top contender, https fortune.com//Trump shortlist, Fed, Powell, Warsh, Hassett, Waller, to be nominated as Fed chair, said he expects a jumbo rate cut to be weighed by the Federal Reserve. The main market expectation is 25 basis points, but I would guess that there would be an expectation, a discussion of a higher cut, but I wouldn't expect it to happen, he told reporters at the White House. Others were even more cautious. "I don't view the current results as soft enough to warrant 50. Larry Werther, chief U.S. economist at Direwell Capital Markets, wrote in a note citing lingering inflation pressures. Joseph Brusuelas of RSM echoed that view, adding, "One will hear talk of a 50 basis point cut, which we think is premature. It would take a large downside surprise in the producer price index and consumer price index for that to happen." Still, ING's James Knightley said, "Some investors are questioning whether the Fed could cut by 50 basis points in September. We could see 2 or 3 FOMC members voting for 50 basis points. For now, most Wall Street economists still expect the Fed to cut by a quarter point on September 17, followed by additional moves in December and into 2026. But markets are increasingly pricing in the chance of a larger insurance cut to halt what looks like an emerging downturn. Futures, https www.cmegroup.com/markets/FedWatch tool, HTML, tied to the Fed's benchmark rate, put odds of a half-point cut at around 11.7% after the jobs data, up from 0% on Thursday. Meanwhile, the yield on the 10-year Treasury tumbled 9.2% basis points to 4.084% on expectations for more aggressive easing. The symbolism of an emergency cut. A bigger move would carry heavy symbolism. It could amount to an admission that Fed Chair Jerome Powell, who spent https fortune.com 2025-07, "When will Jerome Powell Federal Reserve cut interest rates?" the better part of the past year warning against cutting too quickly, may have waited too long. President Donald Trump has already been hammering that message, accusing Powell of being Mr. Too Late and tightening monetary policy to a knot. A jumbo cut in September could be read as belated validation of that critique. Still, the Fed is boxed in by competing pressures, namely its dual mandate for price stability and maximum employment. Tariffs have kept inflation stickier than expected, and some Fed officials worry https://www.reuters.com/business/Fed's Bostic inflation still main concern, though single quarter point cut likely 2025. Very soon. That cutting too deeply risks reigniting price pressures just as households may face higher costs in the grocery store. https://fortune.com/price-deportation-Trump. All the more, fortune.com/2025/recession, inflation, mountain tariffs, immigration, Torsten Slock, top economist. It's a tightrope, Brasuela said. The labor market is deteriorating. But inflation is not yet back to target. The Fed's job is getting harder, not easier. The outcome may hinge on next week's benchmark revisions to payroll data, which could show hundreds of thousands fewer jobs created over the past year than previously reported. If the labor market proves even weaker than the official data already suggests, the case for a bolder half-point cut in September will only grow louder. Fortune Global Forum returns October 26 to 27th, 2025 in Riyadh. CEOs and global leaders will gather for a dynamic, invitation-only event shaping the future of business. Apply for an invitation. https://conferences.fortune.com/event/globalforum/2025